Hello, thank you so much for watching. My name is TJ Rogers. I'm a guitar teacher or guitar tutor. Been doing this for 20 years now, and today we're going to be talking about bar chords, kind of what they are and how it works. Before I get started here, there's definitely one assumption I'm making. I'm assuming that you already know how to read a chord chart. If you do not know how to read a chord chart, and you would like to learn how to, you can go on over to gututor.com and you can get signed up for one-on-one lessons with me, or you can take advantage. Right now, I have on my site basic guitar chord crash course, and for a limited time, it is free. You can get signed up for that and take advantage of that. Now, it would also be helpful if you understand how to find notes on your guitar and you understand what root notes are. We are going to talk a little bit about this a little bit later in this lesson, but I won't go into complete depth on that particular topic. And so it's helpful if you already know that. But if you don't, keep watching and it should make sense. And once again, if you need help on any of those things, you can go to my website, get signed up for lessons, or just feel free to reach out and ask me questions. I'm happy to help. If I get enough of you asking about that, I'd be happy to make a video about that. All right. Now, let's dig in. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to take a look at the guitar and look at the 5 most basic guitar chords that there are. So I'm going to play just 5 chords real fast. These are open kind of cowboy chords, and I'm only playing them in their major format, but this applies to minor formats as well. All of the formats, really. So let's start with a C chord. This is a C chord, right? Then we have A, G, E, and D. All 5 of these chords can actually be moved down the neck and sort of recycled, used as other chords. We actually change the name as we move them down the neck based on the root note, which, like I said, we'll talk about a little bit here in a minute. But that's basically what bar chords are. You're taking those basic open chords and you're moving them down the neck. Now, let's look at kind of how this all works on a chord chart. But before we do that, please, if this content is useful to you and you're enjoying it and you'd like to see more, please take the time to like and subscribe. It's very helpful to me. And as you know, I'm a guitar teacher. I do this for a living. So I am hoping that this algorithm can help me find some new students. So please do like and subscribe, share with your friends, and sign up for lessons, of course, if you want, right? Anyways, let's dig back into this. We're going to jump over to a chord chart, okay? Quick disclaimer, I'm only going to use the E chord and the A chord as examples because they're the most common. You can turn a C chord or a G chord or a D chord into a bar chord as well. They're not very easy to play. Not many people do it because of that. All right, and so we're going to use the E and the A in their major and minor formats as an example, just so that we're using the 2 most commons. Anyways, I'm going to zoom in on this E chord here, and we're just going to talk a little bit about it, okay? So first thing I want you to do is we want to sort of visualize the chord shape on the chart here. Take a look at this. We have these 3 notes that are fretted. Those are fingers on the fretboard, right? And then we have these 3 open notes that are being played, no fingers on them, open strings, all right? When you're looking at this chord, you really need to look at the whole picture, all right? The whole thing together. I'm actually going to play this chord and show you a little example of something. I'm playing this chord, okay? I got the E chord in my fingers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 3 fingers and I'm just going to move them down the fret. I'm going to play it right here. So I've got these 3 are new notes, but the 3 open strings remain the same. Now this sounds like a scary movie, like something you'd hear a girl scream, ah, and then you hear that chord, right? Anyways, what's happening here is, like I said, these 3 notes changed. These did not. That's not how the chord was designed, all right? All 6 of these notes are actually in key with each other, and when you move these ones are no longer in the key, all right? So what really needs to happen when you move this chord down the fretboard is the open notes actually need to move along with it. They actually need to become fretted notes, something like this. Pretty simple concept. It's not going to be easy to do at first. Bar chords are notoriously kind of hard to begin with. So as I'm going to demonstrate this on the guitar, how to approach it, how to kind of start figuring it out. But just be patient. Like the first few times you do it, it's going to sound terrible, and you're going to have to build some muscles and learn to relax at the same time. Your hands can be bending in ways that you're not used to it bending, and so yeah, just be patient with it. Anyways, let's jump over here. So what I like to do when you're first trying to figure out bar chords is actually play your E chord, or it could be the A, or whichever one you decide to do. But in this case, this example, we're using the E. Okay, I'm playing this with my index, middle, and ring. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my middle finger and put it where my index finger is, and then use my ring and my pinky. I'm kind of playing the chord with my last 3 fingers instead of my first 3 fingers. That makes my index free because that's going to be my bar. Okay. So now I'm going to move this down the fretboard here, 1 fret, and my thumb usually when I'm playing this chord is up top. So when I move down here and I'm ready to use the bar, I'm actually going to bring my thumb down, and you'll see the whole bottom of my hand actually comes down as well, away from the fretboard. And then I put this bar in, my index like that, and now I've got myself a bar chord. Now I'm guessing when you first try this, if this is your first time doing it, it's gonna sound like that. It's gonna sound terrible. A few things to look out for, all right? If your thumb is up top, like I said, and you're trying to do something like this, that is just not going to work, all right? So bring your thumb down, and you got to bring your hand, your palm, if your palm's up against the bottom of the neck, or you're trying to put your palm on the bottom of the neck, it's just not going to work. And so you got to actually bring your palm down away from the neck and turn your hand kind of in this shape. I know it's kind of hard to show, but like instead of gripping like this, we're doing this, kind of sliding that across the fretboard. And that allows this finger to be straight. That's what we want, all right? So once you got that, you should be able to get your fingers in place. You got that E chord, moving it down, putting the bar in place. Voila, you've got yourself a bar chord. And this can move up and down the neck all you want, all right? So that is the short of it right there. That's what bar chords are. We're just taking our basic chords and moving them down the neck and recycling them. Now, let's just take a second and talk about finding notes and root notes, okay? So real quick, back to this chart. I'm actually going to zoom out, and I'm going to scroll over here. And before we go much further, I'm just going to show you a few things about this chart. I have this chart. There's a link in the description down below. And it is a free download. You can take this, print it out, or just keep it on your computer and use it for your reference. Anyways, let's jump over there. A couple things. Note that I have along the top here an E major, E minor, A major, and A minor, okay? And I've grouped these together. I've called these the A form, and these are called the E form. When we're talking about bar chords, that's kind of what we do. If we're playing an E chord and we turn it into a bar chord, we're going to call that an E form bar chord, but then we'll use whatever root note it is to name the chord, F, G, A, whatever. Okay, let's talk about that. You also notice up here in the top left corner that I wrote root note up there, okay? And I highlighted it red, and then all of the chords have a note highlighted red, which is the root note of that chord. So that's a really good thing to memorize, is just where those root notes are. Now, really quick, all the root note is the note that gives the chord the name. On guitar, we generally focus on the lowest one that's available to us for picking and strumming and stuff. That's kind of how we do it. But it shows itself multiple places across the fretboard. And so if it's an E chord, the note E is the root note. If it was a G chord, the root G would be the root note, okay? As I take this chord, I'm going to kind of focus on this E chord again. As I take this and I move it down the fretboard, this note is going to move down to the 1st fret or the 2nd fret, wherever we move it, right? And it's going to actually change. let's actually just look at the fretboard of the guitar. We're gonna do like the first 4 frets of the E string. If you're looking at the E string, open E. If I put my finger on the first fret, that becomes an F, A, B, C, D, E, F, all right? And then music has sharp, so that's gonna be F sharp, and then G, and then G sharp, and then it comes back around to A, and so it goes, all right? So as I take this E chord, and I move it down the neck, so I'm using my last 3 fingers, sliding it down, and then putting this bar in place. Now I'm not playing that open E, I'm playing the first fret, which is an F. So that is now an F chord, just the same way you would see it right here as we move it down the neck. That is an F, okay? If I move that down another fret to the 2nd fret, well, we've got an F sharp, and so it goes. So I could have an E chord, I can have an F chord, F sharp, G. Wait a minute, we already have a G chord here. In fact, they sound kind of the same. A few different notes, but pretty close to the same thing. All right. G sharp, A, also the same as this A, right? And so it goes. We can just keep on going. All right. Why is this useful? One might ask. Well, repeating chords like that, sometimes in certain cases, you might want to play a chord one way as opposed to the other to get different effects, different sounds, scratches, things like that. But in the most basic format for you right now, kind of being a beginner guitar, let's say you start learning a new song, and in the song there's a D and there's an A chord. Great, you know those 2 chords, but then this F sharp minor chord shows up. Like, well, I don't know how to play that. So what do? Well, you go look at Google, okay? Like that would be the probably the quickest option. But really, actually, if you take the time and you understand how chords work and how to use bar chords, in the future, you won't have to use Google. You can just use your mind, and you can recycle your chords and get that F sharp. Let's take a look at it real fast, okay? So we're asking for a minor chord. So I'm gonna use this E minor instead, all right? So I've got this is my E minor chord. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna use these latter 2 fingers instead, move it down the fretboard, put on that bar. Well, that makes it F, so we're playing F minor. Okay, move it up 1 more fret, F sharp minor. Okay, where we said our song had D, A, and F sharp minor. All right, and that's an example of how you could use these bar chords to find a chord that you wouldn't have known otherwise. So pretty cool. I'll just kind of remind you one more time that when you first start playing bar chords, it's tough. It really is. I think I'd like to do a video here maybe in a week or so about some tricks to kind of work through how to play the bar chord. But the first thing I would just encourage you to do is just follow those first few steps. Bring your thumb down, try to keep that index finger straight. It does take some muscle, and also at the same time learning to relax. Like, you just kind of got to get used to your hands being in that position, and just keep at it, and you'll get there. Be patient. Now, before I end here, if you'd like to be more involved, like learning guitar, and you're interested in some help in that, some ways you can get involved with me is by joining my mailing list. You can get some newsletters from me. You can also reach out on my website and ask me questions if you like. And most importantly, the thing I specialize in is actually one-on-one private guitar lessons through Zoom. So please feel free to go on over to guitutor.com and reach out. I'd be happy to help you out. And thank you so much for watching. One last reminder to please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.